Sergei Anker woke abruptly from his sleep. He jumped with a start. He had actually fallen asleep the entire journey from Jakarta to Cirebon. The economy class train he was riding in sped slowly past the expanse of rice fields. Sergei was stunned. Everything he saw seemed familiar, as if he had been there before who knows when. "Where is this, sir?" He stuttered in the Indonesian he had just learned to basic level 2. His vocabulary wasn't extensive, but he was starting to catch people speaking simply to him in Indonesian. The sleepy old man in front of him only glanced at him briefly before replying softly, "Cirebon. Yeah, I'm late." "Hey, sir, Mr. Munir, where are you going?" "It's not time to get off yet. There are only 2 stations in Cirebon. Prujakan Station, which usually serves business and executive class passengers, and Kilidug Station, which usually serves economy class passengers." "But it's still January. We're still at the western end." The middle-aged man continued to chatter. He called the 25-year-old Dutch man Meneer. In Indonesia, for some unknown reason, everyone prefers to call Dutchmen Meneer if they don't know their names. Sergei didn't hear the man, or rather didn't understand. He stood at the end of the exit door of the carriage he was in. Only a few pairs of eyes were still there. Almost all of them were asleep. Understandably, it was already 2 in the morning. As far as the eye could see, only darkness stretched outside the window. Although the scent of wet earth in the rice fields was faintly discernible due to the shadows of the moonlight. A minute later, the train stopped at an old building that resembled a station. However, the building was deserted. Not a single creature was visible guarding the crossing. In fact, the homeless people who sometimes grace the stations of Indonesia's metropolises were nowhere to be seen. Sergei got off after briefly bowing to the old man he was talking to. However, the old man started screaming frantically, repeatedly, calling out "Meneer, Meneer." He could only make out 2 words at the time. "Don't get off, strange man. People want to get off, but they're not allowed to," Sergei muttered to himself as he entered the old station building. The station was truly a transit station. It was only a small building measuring no more than 70 square meters. However, the light inside was bright, dazzling. A curvy, long-haired girl dressed in traditional Sundanese attire sat gracefully in front of the cold drink vending machine. "Hi, good night," Sergei said uncertainly. He didn't know the right words to say at 2 in the morning, when he had just met someone. "Hello, where do you come from?" "Netherlands." Goedenavond," the girl answered bluntly without a hint of awkwardness in her voice. "Wow, jij spreekt Nederlands." Sergei was so happy to have someone speak Dutch with him that he nearly knocked down the refrigerator door. Sidi Zainab, the beautiful girl with the oval face and the scent of frangipani, extended her fingers. Sergei Anker." Zainab laughed loudly. The sound of her laughter somehow sent shivers down Sergei's spine, reminding him of the laughter in Asian horror films. Sergei remained silent, simply watching Zainab until the laughter died down. He didn't interrupt at all to ask why she was laughing so loudly. Sorry, sir. It's just Anker in Indonesian means haunted, scary." "Coffee?" Sergei offered before taking another canned drink from the fridge. "Just ilang-ilang tea," Zainab answered without the slightest hesitation. She was used to dealing with Dutch people. "By the way, your t-shirt is nice. Made in the Netherlands. Would you like it?" "If you want it, take it." Sergei genuinely offered the red patterned t-shirt he was wearing. He was just about to unhook it when Zainab hastily declined. The loud commotion from the railway crossing near the station made Sergei jump from his spot. He stood there, his curiosity momentarily oblivious to Zainab. He left her alone in the completely dead station. "An accident, right?" Sergei asked hesitantly to one of the young men huddled around something. "Yes, it's normal. He was hit by a train while his motorcycle was traveling at high speed. I told you not to come home early in the morning." Don't come this way, the young man Sergei had asked, continued to chatter without looking. At the owner of the voice, focus his gaze. The light was still directed at the body under the Jatez chair, belonging to a woman in her 20s dressed in traditional Sundanese attire. It seemed like the girl had just returned from singing traditional Sundanese songs. Sergei finally had no choice but to join in the curiosity, directing his gaze to the body beneath his feet. Curiosity was as high as it was in the Netherlands, and Indonesia was the same. He knelt down because the body's face was not clearly visible, because it had been placed in a body bag. He revealed a bright yellow plastic bag that completely covered the girl's face. Zainab? Siti Zainab. The young men surrounding the area didn't suddenly back away, giving him a long pause just looking at the figure. Their faces all looked incredibly tense. There were about 10 young men. None of their expressions looked okay. However, Sergei didn't pay much attention to the change in their expressions. Instead, most of their faces were deathly pale, as if they had been chased by a ghost. Several uniformed police officers lifted the body and loaded it into an ambulance. Sergei wanted to join him, but his legs were too weak to stand. How could Siti Zainab, who had been perfectly fine with him just a minute ago, suddenly become a corpse? Faintly in the distance, the call to prayer for dawn prayers rang out. Although there weren't many people passing by, the atmosphere was more solemn, lively. Some of them were milling about carrying prayer mats and prayer robes, mukenas. Heading to the mosque, "Assalamu alaikum," the voice repeated as they crossed the unmarked railway crossing. It was unknown who they were talking to. Sergei himself, unable to respond to the greeting due to his different faith, was silent, frozen in place. A religious teacher who had just returned from a religious study group patted him warmly on the shoulder. "Brother, where are you going?" "Let me take you." Sergei, already dazed, complied as the religious teacher took him to the local village hall. He himself didn't know what to say. He had originally come here to meet a friend. However, he seemed to have forgotten who he was meeting. "Sergei, oh my God, I waited for you all night at Prujakan station 3 days ago. Since you weren't there, I searched all the way to Kilidug. Where have you been?" Sergei remained silent, staring blankly in an unknown direction. In his vision, that scene was still there. When Siti Zainab laughed softly, delighted to accept his offer of a drink. In fact, Sergei didn't have time to exchange more words beyond chanting each other's names. "Ustaz, this is my internet friend from the Netherlands. I'll take care of the rest. Thank you for finding my friend and bringing him safely." The Ustaz nodded before leaving. "Wait, Ustaz, how did you find him?" "There was a report from a local resident. They said this young man had been hiding, meditating near the train tracks over there for 3 days. I picked him up this morning." "The Kalawati track, the one near the old station?" Sergei's internet friend felt a sense of utter terror course through his body. He was shaking violently as if about to be executed. When the Ustaz nodded, Sergei's internet friend quickly led the young man away from the village hall. He wanted to disappear as far as possible from the area near the station. "Promise me you won't go back there, Sergei. It's a good thing you didn't encounter Kentrung Budeg." Sergei didn't have time to exchange more words beyond chanting each other's names. "Ustaz, this is my internet friend from the Netherlands. I'll take care of the rest. Thank you for finding my friend and bringing him safely." The Ustaz nodded before leaving. "Wait, Ustaz, how did you find him?" "There was a report from a local resident. They said this young man had been hiding, meditating near the train tracks over there for 3 days. I picked him up this morning." "The Kalawati track, the one near the old station?" Sergei's internet friend felt a sense of utter terror course through his body. He was shaking violently as if about to be executed. When the Ustaz nodded, Sergei's internet friend quickly led the young man away from the village hall, trying to get as far away from the area near the station as possible. "Promise me you won't go back there, Sergei. It's a good thing you didn't encounter Kentrung Budeg." Sergei's gaze was still blank in an unknown direction.